Okay, let us start. So we are in chapter 4, Jnana Yoga Transformation. Actually, this chapter will tell us the purpose of our life. So mostly what we have to, why we have come here in this world. So before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Radha Govinda. Om Manglacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadate Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpaturabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Patitam Nam Pavinabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming. So let us begin. So we were in chapter 4 and what did we did? We did up to 24 verses where Krishna talks about the transcendental knowledge. He talks about the knowledge about Krishna, right? That is transcendental. And how do we, how he has given it to this world is through the parampara. Okay, and we looked at the paramparas, and then Krishna said, Krishna is the goal. Okay, we have to go back to him, right? And all the paths are the same, and it goes to him. And he is the creator of the Varnashram system. We look at that. Then again, he talked about Karma Yoga, and now we are going to see about the sacrifices, which leads to culminate in learning, getting this knowledge and summary of trans knowledge. So when he says that, he says he rewards everyone according to their surrender. That's what we looked at yesterday. Depending upon the degree of the surrender, Krishna says that he reciprocates accordingly. In fact, he said his knowledge about him is appearance, disappearance, and about the Lord. That is divyam. And people who have understood this completely have been liberated from this world, that they don't have to come back. So that, but people don't understand this, and people don't, and that becomes the degree of surrender. To that degree of surrender, he reciprocates. So that depends upon our understanding the Lord, right? And we have different levels of understanding the absolute truth. And who realizes Krishna fully is the pure devotees. And everyone is looking at Krishna for different aspects of his meditations, right? Like the fruity workers, they only want the fruits immediately. They worship the demigods. Actually, it's the Yagneshwara. Vishnu is the one who was the fulfills their desires. Whereas the impersonalists, they want to merge into the Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. So depending on that, if you want to Brahma Jyoti, he says, yeah, okay, go ahead. And the yogis, they want some mystic powers, whereas devotees, they want to serve it in different rasas. So everyone depends on Krishna's mercy for success. Even if you don't want to know about the Lord, he says, okay, don't know about me, you can be in ignorance. So it depends upon our desire and how we want to approach the Lord. So Krishna clearly says, he rewards everyone according to their surrender. So he is merciful only, but we are not reciprocating. Then he talked about the Varnashrama system. See, this Varnashrama system is it that Varna means you can be a Brahmana, or you can be a Kshatriya, or you can be a Vaishya or a Sudra. Brahmana means it is the intellectual type, okay, who main thing is to educate people, and they're keen on getting knowledge, acquiring knowledge, reading and things. That is the Brahmanas uh, aptitude. And for Kshatriyas, there will be the rulers who like to organize things, who like to administrate the things, like the politicians. And Vaishyas are the business people who supply the goods to these people. And the Sudras are the workers. Okay, so we have these four classes. But Krishna here clearly says, he has put us in this material world, and he has also made a system like this, so that there will be four classes of people: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras. Okay, that is the Varna. How do they choose? And he says it's not chosen by their birth, but by their guna and karma. That is their nature, mentality. Depending on that, they select that particular profession, that particular work they take up. That is their aptitude, because that is what they are interested in. But just because you're born in a Brahmana family doesn't mean you have to take the profession of the Brahmana. It's not necessary. If you have the skill and you have the aptitude to be a businessman, you can go ahead and do it. So then you will be more happy in it and more fruitful. You don't take up a profession or a work which goes against your nature. Otherwise, you won't be happy. Just because of the peer pressure or what is the in thing in the society and things, if you take up that type of work, then you won't be happy or satisfied. So this is what Krishna says. This is a system which works for everyone. Varna, ashrama, Varna is the job and ashrama is the place. Like the Brahmanas, there are four kinds of stages in your life: Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and the Sannyas. So, in those Vedic times, they used to send their children to the Gurukul. So, the Guru will be teaching the students there from 5 years to 20 years. So, he comes to know their nature. And accordingly, he'll be teaching them the science and what is some, if they are not qualified for a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or to think, then if he is just a Sudra, he'll send them away from the Gurukul so that he can learn the system from his parents, right? So, but the way the Guru will be with them, the students, he will take care of them and he will groom them accordingly. Okay. And if the student is capable of taking up sannyas, is willing to take up, then he can just straightaway take up sannyas after this brahmachari's life. Okay. And or he can go to the next stage, that is take up the grihastha life. And then after 50 years, he can give up this family life to go for vanaprastha and then to sannyas. So this is the thing. So the ashramas which the brahmanas can occupy is brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. Whereas for kshatriyas, they don't go to sannyas. They take vanaprastha. Okay, they go from brahmachari. They also that's how Pandavas, Kauravas were there in Dronacharya was teaching them the military science and things, and depending on their nature, like Bhima learned our Gada, whereas Arjuna was on the arrow and Duryodhana was there. So depending on each person's nature and their aptitude, the science was taught to them accordingly. And Vaishyas, Brahmachari and Grihastha, they don't go to Vanaprastha. So this is the thing. So someone asked me yesterday, what's the difference between guna and karma? Guna is your nature, your mentality, and the karma is the work you have to do. That depends on your aptitude. Okay. So how you choose your profession, how you choose here, Krishna has clearly said. And today this system doesn't, there is a somewhat similar system, but it is not as per what it was in the, because we don't have the Gurukul system today. we have a common education and the teachers don't groom you to as per your nature. So it is all mixed and we don't go to, we are still in the thing. So there is a different kind of education system today. So this is like we have an intellectual class, we have an administrative class, and we have a business class, and we have a workers class. Okay. So this is what he said. He has created this system, and this is how it was working earlier, and it was working very well. Okay. And then he continues to say, and that was done so that people will spiritual growth doesn't depend upon what ashrama you're there or what varna is there. Okay. All you have to do is work, whichever class you're in, you have to work coordinately because society requires all these four class of people. And the spiritual growth depends only on the sincerity and on the bhakti. It doesn't depend on the what profession you're in or what ashrama you're in. All it requires is your sincerity and bhakti. So this is only to help each other to work coordinately to this. So and gradually progress in your spiritual growth. And then next Krishna talks about karma again because this is the karma yoga section, right? Then he's talking about on the platform of Jnana, Nishkama Karma Yoga. And then he talks about the action, forbidden action and the inaction, which will not give you the thing. So if you understand that, then it happens, you can remove your reactions from your activities because you will know how to do things. And it will clear up our karmic balance, which we have. It will burns the karma because this knowledge is there. And it is universal. It's not only for this. And from here, we come to know that bad karma is actually undesirable. Even punya is also avoided because we are getting bonded to this material world. What we need to do is akarma because we have to go beyond the good and bad to the spiritual level. That is where you don't get any karmic reactions. So then he talks about the people, devotees who are in Krishna consciousness. They are the ones who are doing akarma. So they are free from all the dualities and contaminations, and they are knowing their constant relationship with Krishna because they know their eternal service to the Lord. So they will like to do the service only for the Lord. So whatever he does does it for the Krishna. All his works technically become a sacrifice in satisfying Vishnu or Krishna, like eating or anything. Resultant reactions is merged into transference. So, and we saw the practice, different characteristics and what they are thing and how the perfection and they're fully situated in the transcendent knowledge, they will merge into transcendence. They are like the Goswamis. So everything they dovetail to the Lord. So we ended up here to know how the Krishna people, devotees who are in Krishna consciousness, characteristics and how they are fully in trance with the, okay. So conditioned soul entangled material contamination can get out of this material atmosphere only through Krishna conscious process. So when we are covered by Maya, sense gratification is called material. If this material wheel can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. So if your mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it's said to be samadhi. So anything done in such trance is called yajna or sacrifice. So after saying this, Krishna now continues to talk about various kinds of sacrifices which lead to transcendental knowledge. The minute we say sacrifice, what we think is some fire and there's some priests are sitting around, they're chanting some mantras and they're pouring ghee to it, to the fire and keeping it so that is, but here Krishna is going to talk about different kinds of sacrifices depending upon the nature of the people. Okay, they take up they may not do all the things. It depends on what they're liking, their mentality, and what they choose. So fruit of all kinds of Vedic sacrifices is to get the transcendental knowledge. And what will it do? It will lead us to liberation and ultimately to pure devotional service. At least you get liberated from this material world and you go back to spiritual world. So this is what the thing. So the development of this knowledge, finally, what is this knowledge we are going to get? That we are the eternal servant of the Lord. And so this knowledge actually is like a fire. It will, once it gets burnt, it will burn all our karmic reactions. So let us see what are these sacrifices which the Lord is describing in the verses from 25 to 30. Okay. So they are demigod worship, Brahman worship, mind control in sense enjoyment, self-control, charity, austerity, mysticism, study scriptures and things. What does it mean? There are sacrifices which lead to nature. I've explained demigod worship, then sacrifices unto Brahman, that's impersonalist in this Brahman. Then hearing process. Hearing process means it's like this, in this sacrifice, your ear becomes the kunda. Into that ear, you are feeding Vedic scriptures, Vedic reading, and all that. I mean, instead of pouring ghee, we are pouring these scriptures, the knowledge into it. So, senses in the fire of mental control. Then, object of senses. So, we'll go into it detailing in the coming verses. Charity, there are Dravamaya Yajna, charitable institutions, and all that. Austerity, there are people know in Damodar month or Chaturmasya month, they take up certain austerity measures. They won't take greens, they won't take certain grains or curd or milk. No, there are certain austerity measures they follow during these 4 months. So that kind of austerity. Yoga, sacrifice for a certain perfection in material world, like Patanjali system, Ashtanga Yoga. This study of scriptures is also a kind of yajna. Okay, Hatha Yoga, Pranayama. So, some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. So, let us see that. Anybody wanted to read? Hare Krishna. Volunteer. Shanti Mata, Sunil Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Everybody is sleeping. Time. As described above. Hare Krishna. Nobody wants to do it?
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
As described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely, sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Pava Ishwaravadi or believers in many gods. But others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the the forms of the demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire and thus end their individual existence by merging into the existence of the supreme. Such impersonalists sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the supreme. In other words, the fruitive workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifices material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman. The Krishna conscious person, like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus all his material possessions, as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus, he is the first class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See, this demigod worship is that, like we know, no, that they have a kunda, they do some priests are there, they will have a fire and they will say the mantras accordingly, whether you're doing Ganesh Homa or you're doing the Homa for the sun god or anything, whatever it is. So that is the traditional one, we know that, and it's as per the Vedic rituals. So they are interested in material benefits. So they worship the demigods and they want to go to higher planets and things like that. That is the materialist. Whereas there are other kind of people, like they say here Brahman, not impersonalist, who says Ham Brahmasmi. So they want to merge into the Lord's Brahma Jyoti. They want to merge into the Lord's. So they will sacrifice their self itself. So the Yajna Kunda is, as Prabhupada writes, for them the fire altar of sacrifice is the supreme Brahma, because they want to sacrifice themselves. No, they want to merge into it. So the Brahma Jyoti becomes the Yajna Kunda, and they offer themselves into that Yajna Kunda. That is the self. What is the fire? Whereas in demigods, there is actual fire and the mantras there, and they, through the mantras, they do the yajna. So this is a different kind of yajna where the Brahma Jyoti becomes the yajna kunda, right? Whereas the Krishna conscious person, not only they sacrifice everything for satisfaction of Krishna, their material possessions, even their self, both is sacrificed. So he's the first class yogi. He's both. So that's what here. So we understand that this is one kind of thing where impersonalists will give their time in philosophical speculation. And those people, they'll work for, and they do the actual thing, service, having thing. So this is what actually sacrifice means. We are satisfying Supreme Lord Vishnu. And they may God worship, they want to sacrifice their worldly position. And the others are for transcendental, for pure transcendental knowledge. So we saw this. And then people of material benefits are the ones who are for demigod worship. And this impersonal religious, they want to merge. Okay? And this is the same thing which I put in the flow chart. We have demigod worshippers, impersonalists, and Krishna consciousness devotees. Okay, it's the same thing which I put it in the flow chart. Okay. So what is the other type? So in verse 26, Krishna says, so some unadulterated brahmacharis sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. And others, regulated householders, sacrifice the object of senses in the fire of senses. What do you mean that? When they are in the Gurukul and they are in the brahmachari life, right? So they spend the whole life, the thing, in hearing the Vedic scriptures, Vedic values of life, and they serve the Guru, and they are in the ashram. And this is, so for them, the Yajna Kunda is, ears. Your ear becomes the Yajna Kunda and the hearing process. So they sacrifice that to get the study the Vedic scriptures. Whereas the Grahastha people, they have they can, once they become a grasta, they are allowed to have sense gratification, right? But they do it in a regulated manner. So they are control that. So that is, they don't whimsically or think, they sacrifice the objects of senses in the fire of the senses. So this is what is there. Whereas those who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of mind and senses offer the function of all the senses and the life breath as operations into the fire of control mind. So that, if you just have a look at that. So the yoga system, which is given by Patanjali, is actually for the control of the mind and senses. So they have Pratyagatma and Paragatma. Here Prabhupada gives a detailed thing. As long the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, is called Paragatma. As soon as the soul becomes detached from sense enjoyment, is called Pratyagatma. So soul is subjected to the function of, and it goes into detail that this is what you call Ayurvedic thing system. According to this yoga system, Pratyaka Atma is the ultimate goal. That means this yogic system which is given by the Patanjali is for controlling your mind and senses. And they function of all the senses and life breath as oblations to the fire of the mind. So mind is your Yajna Kunda. And into that, you give up all these things. That's how you try to control your, engage your activities. So senses interact with the sense objects like ear for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, hand for touching. All of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the functions of prana. So it's all about Ayurvedic, and there it is for where a person is searching for self-realization, right? So this is one kind of sacrifice that we have heard about in the various system, how they go for that. There are other kinds. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, that is by giving charity. Okay, others by performing severe austerities, as I said, that they by practicing yoga of eightfold system, Ashtanga yoga, which we see in the next chapter, in 6th, and by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. So they sacrifice the possession, the form of various kind of charity. They will build Dharmashala, they'll build Anashetra, Atitasthala, Anantala, Vidyapita, like hospitals, old age homes, similar charity functions meant for distributing food. So this is how they do their sacrifice. I mean, it's also one kind of sacrifice where they're giving up their material possessions, providing education, medical treatment free to the poor. So you can just see how Krishna is explaining the entire varieties. These are the kind, this is the real thing which is happening, because different kinds of people have different kind of karmas of the balance, and they have the different attitude, and they look and their perceptions in life will vary, and they take up to such kind of activities. So for higher elevation to higher planets, austerities like Chandrayana, Chaturmasya. Severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. In Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year July to October. He does not eat certain foods. In 1 month, they won't take milk products. Another month, they won't take greens, or does not eat twice in a day, does not leave home. Such sacrifice as a comfort of life is called Tapomaya Yajna. And Chandrayana vow on the 12th day of the lunar of exit, which foster capability for performing acts pleasing to Lord. So there are different kind of yajnas. Okay. Some engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas, Hatha yoga, Ashtanga yoga, or they travel to places of pilgrimage, or the studying different Vedic scriptures. Even that also is like a thing. Like we are now studying Vedic scriptures, right? Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and all. So that is also, you're spending some time, for this. Like you all have come here for 1 hour to study this. So that is also a kind of yajna. That is Svadhyaya Yajna. Engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All those yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice, and they're seeking a higher state. Krishna consciousness is the direct service of the Supreme Lord, thing cannot be attained by any of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord. That is Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. Because the others and all you can do it. Whereas this one is only by direct service. Bhakti. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath. This is nothing but pranayama. Others, and actually today, there are a lot of yogic schools and all the pranayama, and they all do it as only for their health process. But here Krishna says is also a kind of yagna, sacrifice. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So, from the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifice, namely sacrifice of one's possessions, study of Vedas, philosophical doctrines, performance yogas, it is found that the common name of all is to control the senses. Because we are not able to control the sense gratification, we are living like an animal. Unless we come to that, karma kanda, controlling. All this, whatever we have been explained, is the main aim is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause for material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. So this whole thing, whatever is been talking about, is for sense control. The platform is in the eternal atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifice help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of material existence. So it is not a waste. It is why they do all that, so that you can get cleansed by the sinful reactions of the material existence. By this advancement in life, not only one become happy and opulent in life, but also at the end enters into the thing. So you come out of the mode of ignorance and passion. You try to come to the mode of goodness associating with this. So this is what Krishna says. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of things. You just don't do it as a thing, as a material activity. If you understand the purpose, if you understand why we are doing, then he says you will be cleansed because you are doing to become cleansed by the sinful reactions. Then you can advance towards the supreme. Oh, best of poor dynasty. Without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this platform in this life or then of the next. So it is a must. You have to perform any one of them. You can take up any austerity measures or any material charity or this, because otherwise you can never live happily. And only then you will be coming towards the mode of goodness. Otherwise you will be stuck in the mode of passion and ignorance. All these different type of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas. And all of them are born of different type of work. Knowing them as such, you will become it. So you understand why there is the way he is explaining so detailedly, so that we have different kind of people. All I think have different aptitudes, attitudes, and we come with the different baggages. So we take up to any of these things according to our mentality. And all of them are approved by the Vedas. Okay. And so once we understand that why we are doing, that itself will clear our sinful reactions. Otherwise, what happens? We are stuck in this material existence. Hare Krishna, any doubt till now? Hare Krishna. Okay, so let me. Yes, Mataji. Any doubts so far? Fine, let me continue. So if you don't do it, you are in the material existence. And because we are ignorant of this, what happens? We continue to do sinful reaction life. And because we are doing sinful life, we are leading a sinful life, we are caught in this cycle of birth and death. And we keep on going upon that. So that's what happens with if you don't do any sacrifice. Even Lord Brahma, when he was first came into, when he was born, and he was the only living entity, Jiva there, right? And he didn't know why he had come and what was thing. He was looking around and thing. Then there was a voice which said, So then he understood that he has to do a lot of sacrifice, tapa. Then he did a lot of yajna, tapas, and then he was able to get the knowledge. Then the Lord gave him the understanding what he has to do, what is his purpose in life, and gave the Vedic knowledge and the blueprint for creation. So all sacrifices must be performed with the knowledge of their purpose and goal. So that is what. If you do just blindly doing charity or blindly doing austerity, it's not. Unless you think that you're doing for the Lord or things, then it has a meaning. Okay. O chastity of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So you understand here, everything culminates in transcendental knowledge. So now we talked about all this. We talked about what has to be done, sacrifice, how to remove your sinful reactions, right? Then how do you get this? How to achieve this knowledge? What is the benefits? Who can successfully get it? Even you should be qualified, no, to get this knowledge, right? What are the qualifications? And the symptoms of one who has successfully applied. Then how knowledge to work. So in the last concluding, he talks about this. This is the very important verse. Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gnanam naninas tattva dashina. Tat vidhi pranipatena. So you have to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Tat vidhi pranipatena. And inquire from him. Pariprashnena. You inquire from him how submissively and render service, sevaya, service unto him. So we have to approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. And then what does he do? The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Upadekshantita nanam naninas tattva dashina. So someone asked me earlier that how to find a spiritual guru. It's not that there is a chalk out thing. This is the way you have to go about to approach a guru or anything like that. There is nothing like rules and regulations because each one is different and each one has got, and for him, the way he approaching the thing will be a different way, right? So you can't give one rule for everyone. But one thing is the attitude and what you have to do and how you have to pay back to the guru, that has been explained here. You have to approach your thing because if you seriously want to progress in your spiritual life, then you have to approach a spiritual master. Then you have to inquire from him submissively. If you're too arrogant and you want the knowledge, you will never get it. And you cannot pay him with material goods or anything. The only thing is by rendering service unto him. Only by that, then the spiritual master will test you, he will observe you, and then only he will be able to impart the knowledge to you. It's not just given like that, handed over across the thing. Here in the picture, we see how Krishna and Balarama have gone to the Gurukul system with the Sannipan because they spent their earlier days in the Vrindavan. So once the Kamsa was killed, then Vasudev, the father, they sent them to the Gurukul to learn. It's not that they need to learn, but that was a system. You have to go to a Gurukul and learn from your master. So you see that. So if you want to learn this spiritual knowledge, we have to approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service. Let us see. We'll look at this. I think that is. So the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. That's why the Lord therefore advises to approach a spiritual master who is in the line of disciplic succession. So we have to not just go to anybody, okay? And he should have come from the disciplic succession from the Lord himself. And there cannot be a spiritual master without following this principle of discipline. So that is very important, okay? So he says, spiritual realized by manufacturing his own process is a fashion of the foolish pretender. So we have to be very careful of such kind of people. So that is what here. And by therefore by also Prabhupada writes, if you by mental speculation or dry arguments cannot lead one to the right path, and not by independently studying of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life, because this is an experiential knowledge. Okay, so it is not something which I can read, like even if you want to become a doctor, but just reading the medical books you can't. No, you have to go to an institution, you have to go and register yourself, then learn from a teacher. Same way here, you have to go approach a spiritual master to receive the knowledge. And he should be, such a master should be accepted in full surrender. Okay, and he should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. So, satisfaction of the self-realized master is the advancement of life. So, inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Otherwise, you can't. Unless you are able to pass the test of the spiritual master, when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In Bhagavatam, no, we hear the story of Narada. He'll be telling about his life to Vyasadeva. There, when he was a small young boy, he was serving transcendentalist. They had come, 4 people had come into their ashram, and they were serving him, he and his mother. So by associating with them and learning and hearing their, serving them and hearing their scriptures, they're associating with them. They blessed him with the Bhakti Bija. So that's how he got that Bhakti Bija, by associating with the transcendentalist and serving them. Okay. So at the age of 5. So that is how you can get. It can't be got just like by the just studying yourself or doing that. So therefore, when the student is submissive and is also ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. So this is how we have to select. So selecting Guru is, how do we do it? It is only when you desire sincerely, then the Lord, because He's there inside us as Paramatma, He will lead us to the Guru. For us is Prabhupada, because He's the spiritual master for us, because the way you study His life and is the way He has given us the scriptures itself tells us we need to, He will be the true master. So what happens? Rewards of transcendental knowledge can be obtained by, because how it is, by living entities, we are a part and parcel of the Lord. And we can easily cross over the ocean of miseries. And because we know about ourself and the super soul, it burns all our sinful reactions. And we can get self-realization. These are the fruits for getting the thing. A faithful man who is dedicated to his knowledge and subdues his eligible. He is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he can quickly attain the spiritual peace. So, who is dedicated and subdues the anything. But ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain. So this is the qualification. If you really believe in it and you work for it, you will get it. But if you doubt the revealed scriptures, then you'll never get God consciousness. They will not. And if you doubting soul, there's no happiness here or there. So, Jnana Asina, that means this knowledge is like a weapon to cut our doubts, and it will remove our ignorance, and it will burn up our reactions, and it will help us to cross this material ocean. So this Jnana, that is, we are the part and parcel of the Lord. So no sinful reactions can affect one who performs his duties with knowledge. So not just do your duty, that's the thing, but if you do it with Krishna consciousness, that saying that this is the Lord has given, and thinking of Him, then one who has faith can acquire transcendent knowledge, and one who is free of doubts. If you are doubting, you cannot get this knowledge. So one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of action, whose doubts have been destroyed by the knowledge, is situated factually in himself, thus not bound by the reactions of. So now we understand why the Lord was talking about things. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge, armed with yoga. So, Bharata, now you stand and fight. So the Lord says, and I would like to read the purport of the last. See, in any chapter, no, the beginning of the chapter, the Prabhupada writes a nice introduction to that, right? And then while ending the thing, the purport also gives you quite a good summary. So let us read that summary. So you'll get a good understanding of how Prabhupada has organized his thing. The yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatana Yoga for external activities performed by the living entity. And it has got two divisions of sacrifice actions. That is, sacrifice of material possession, that we can easily understand. And the other is called knowledge of self, which is pure spiritual activity. If sacrifice of one material possession is not doubtful for spiritual realization, then that sacrifice becomes material. Many people know they do a lot of philanthropic effect. But if they don't add bhakti into it, what happens? It will just remain on the material platform. But one who performs with sacrifice with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. Okay. So again, when you come to spiritual activities, we find they are divided into two, namely understanding yourself and constitution position. That is what as we are the Atma and not the body, right? Our thing. And why we have come here, let's put in this thing, we are the part and parcel of him, and our purpose in life is to go back. So our constitution position and the truth regarding the thing and why we need to do for the Lord, because we have to go back. And that is our true position. So one who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita, as it can very easily understand, these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. That means one, you have to know about yourself and your position and about the Lord. For him, there is no difficulty in perfecting the knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. So once you have that understanding, is beneficial because such a person can easily understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. In the beginning of this chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Supreme Lord himself. He said why he is coming into the every yoga and what is his purpose. So if you do not understand the instruction of Gita, is faithless. Is to be understood to be misusing the fragment of the independence awarded to him by the Lord. Right? In spite of such instructions, who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as eternal, blissful, and all-knowing, is certainly fool number one. Okay. So this is what Prabhupada concludes. He says, ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of consciousness. Okay. So that's how we have started our thing with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Starting the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So we start with the Shravanam. So Krishna consciousness awakened by different types of sacrifices to demigods, sacrifice to a Brahman, sacrifice in celibacy, in our soul life, in controlling senses, practicing any of these. It's not that you have to do all of them now. And studying Vedas and parting the thing called Varnashram. All of these are known as sacrifices. All of them are based on regulated action. That means you are trying to control your senses. And within all these activities, the important factor is self-realization. One who seeks that object is the real student of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So this year very clearly he writes. So that is, therefore, Prabhupada writes, therefore you study Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture under a bona fide spiritual master with service and surrender. That should be our attitude. Okay. And we come. So Lord is therefore, this is nice. Lord is therefore the supreme person and his activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person. That is, he's not just an ordinary man. People just talk about Krishna when he was in Vrindavan as an ordinary person. No, he's a supreme person and his activities are transcendental. Okay. So that ends the purport of this chapter. So we end with our thing. So this is how the Lord first talked about his activities, transcendental, and then how it has come from parampara. It's not that he has given these signs only now. He has been given to sun god, then came to Manu, then Ikshvakshu, and then to the Arjuna now. And Krishna is the goal. Okay. And even the which has created the Varnashrama system is to work towards the Lord. Okay. And then he explained more about the Karma Yoga. And then he talked about the sacrifices, what we have to do to get this knowledge, and how by taking the shelter of the Supreme Spiritual Master, we are able to get it. How to identify? It's only by the mercy of the Lord. You get, and people you have all come here, you have got the mercy of the Lord. So this ends with that. And Vancha kalpatra bhescha kripa sindheva cha patitam napa